The library air tasted like paper dust and cold takeout, and the silence had a brittle edge, like the building itself was holding its breath. My phone vibrated against the table, creeping a few millimeters across the wood. On the screen, the tow release code sat one digit off from the receipt in my hand. Close enough to keep me arguing. Wrong enough to keep my equipment case behind a fence. A chair leg rasped behind me. Near the reference desk stood a woman who looked like she'd walked in from a place where problems were loud and metal and immediate. Dark coveralls, hair tied back, a shop rag twisted between her fingers gray with use. Grease traced her knuckles and the inside of her wrist stains that didn't ask permission. The fluorescent hum overhead made the contrast sharper polished desks smudged hands. She didn't shrink from it. She stepped forward, stopped, then took stock of what I carried receipt folder pen before meeting my eyes. "Are you the one who, She began, then paused when my phone buzzed again, insistent and quiet. I raised the receipt slightly. "If you're here about the tow, I didn't call it." Her expression didn't soften. "My car's gone," she said evenly. "My shop truck too. Same morning. And the site manager says there's no record of authorization to park where we always park." Paper bit into my thumb as I pinched the edge. "Something of mine got taken as well," I said, letting the slip show. "And the numbers don't match." A careful breath left her controlled, like she'd learned not to hand strangers her panic. "I'm Sela. Read." Her gaze dropped to her hands, and the rag then lifted again with a small, frustrated honesty. "But I'm so dirty." My palm flattened on the table, open, calm, no tricks. "That doesn't matter," I said. "What matters is what we can prove." For a beat she held still, and I caught what she'd been using as fuel, pure refusal to be embarrassed out of her own problem. That refusal hit me harder than the tow code on my phone. Yes, I wanted my equipment case back. But the thing that locked me in wasn't my own inconvenience. It was the clean, practiced way bullies like Connor learned to hide behind rules, and the way Sela walked into a library like this anyway, daring the world to look. A librarian's eyes flicked to Sela's coveralls and then away. Sela noticed. Her shoulders stayed squared. I didn't say anything poetic. I just tapped the receipt once and nodded at the terminal. "Let's make him regret choosing you," I said quietly. With his own paperwork, the public terminal screen wore fingerprints like a second skin. My sleeve dragged across it, leaving a dull streak. The computer fan answered with a tired whine as I pulled up the city permit database. Sela hovered close enough to see far enough to keep her space. The rag stayed in her hands, like a small shield. "Towed to harbor," she said, tapping her phone. "The clerk said the system flagged our plates." "Flagged for what?" "Outstanding violations," she answered. "Noise complaints, unsafe work zone, unauthorized parking." That list didn't sound like a mechanic's shop. It sounded like a net thrown wide enough to catch a person's reputation. Filters narrowed the records. Tow log opened. Approval field populated. A name sat in clean type, Connor Mitchell. Sela read it, and her jaw set in a way that looked familiar, like tightening a bolt until it stopped moving. "Connor," she said flat. "Who is he?" "Neighborhood committee chair," she replied. "He wants my shop gone." The PDF attachment loaded slowly, pixel by pixel, while the fan complained. When the header finally sharpened, the permit number didn't match her address. It didn't match mine. Sela leaned in. The rag brushed the desk edge. She snapped it back quick, like a smear could become a new accusation. "That's not us," she said. A click opened file properties. The author tag sat there like a fingerprint, C. Mitchell. Instead of arguing, my hands went to work. Screenshot. Timestamp. Server path. Another screenshot. A new document for an evidence log, each entry labeled like field samples, where it came from, when it was retrieved, how it was captured. 2 emails went out, one to my inbox, one to hers, so the timestamps lived in 2 places no one could rewrite casually. Sela watched the growing list on the screen as if a locked door had started to give. "Towels are held at harbor," she said. "Come with me." The receipt folded into my folder with a crisp crease. Now I answered, already standing. before the record refreshes. Drizzle turned the tow yard fence into a wet rattle. Wind pushed cold through the chain links, and the metal clicked like teeth. Sela stood beside me with arms crossed, rag tucked into her back pocket now, as if it belonged there more than anywhere else. Behind the glass, a nameplate read, Shiloh Rivera. Shiloh looked from Sela's coveralls to my folder and didn't flinch, just waited patient in the way people get when they've seen every kind of anger. Plate numbers, she said. Sela gave them. Keys clacked behind the window in a steady rhythm. Flagged Shiloh said, Committee hold. My folder landed on the counter with a soft thud. We pulled the authorization PDF, I said. Mismatched permit attachment. Metadata lists the chair as editor. We need a supervisor review. Shiloh's eyes sharpened. Email it. The send swoosh left my screen. The evidence log followed through the slot with a faint scrape. Shiloh read the labels, then lifted her gaze like she'd just met someone who spoke her language. This is clean, she said. Not kind, not warm, respectful. A supervisor appeared in a navy jacket, skimmed the papers, and shook her head. Committee controlled. No override without a release code. Sela's chin lifted. The committee office is open. Shiloh cleared her throat. Open when they want to be. Sela's fingers curled once at her side, then relaxed. She didn't waste energy on a scene. A plan formed the way it always did for me, at a dig find the rule the ground is hiding. Then we stop asking. In their preferred silence, I said. We use the place where their bylaws are printed. Where Sela asked. City library corner, I answered. Meeting calendar. Petition process. She studied me for a beat, weighing pride against survival. Then she exhaled, decisive. Okay. We do it. Back at the library corner, a librarian's eyes snagged on Sela's work clothes and then snapped away. Sela's shoulders stiffened like she'd been tapped, but she kept walking. The rag stayed in her pocket now. Hands free, chin up. We took a table by Civic Archives. My notebook opened with a soft crack. Pen scratched paper dry, steady grounding. Bylaws loaded on the screen. Sela read fast, jaw set, then rubbed her temple once and dropped her hand, as if the gesture had never happened. There, I said, pointing. Emergency session petition. It stays an expedited hearing if there's evidence of procedural abuse. Needs 3 residents' signatures, she said. 2 residents and 1 affected business, I corrected, tapping the line. I'm the business, she said, statement, not plea. And I'm a resident while my dig's here, I replied. We need 1 more. No one wants to sign, she said. Connor makes it miserable. My phone came out screen glow, lighting my fingers. Then we borrow someone who already complains for sport. Her eyes tracked the text as I typed. Jameer, please don't drag me into your bad luck. Me 1 signature. Jameer, if this costs me money, I'm haunting you. A smile tried to appear on Sela's mouth and got caught halfway. She hid it by leaning toward the printer as it began to whir. Paper slid out with a tired clack. Sela wiped her fingertips with the rag, hesitated, then signed anyway. Ink stayed clean. Her phone lit up. She read, and the color drained from her face in a controlled, practiced way. She turned the screen toward me. Notice of violation hearing scheduled. Tomorrow morning. That's an expedite, I said. They're calling it safety. Then we file tonight, Sela answered, pushing her chair back. The legs scraped softly, decision made. Let's get your friend. Rain tapped my jacket as we crossed to Jameer's rental. Sela had no jacket. Instead of offering mine and turning it into a moment, I shifted to the windward side. Cold seeped into my shoulder. She walked a little drier. You're blocking the wind, she said. It's blocking me, I replied. A quiet sound left her half laugh, half exhaustion, and it was the first time I'd heard her let the pressure loosen at the edges. Jameer opened the door with his hood up, like the sky owed him an apology. He saw Sela, then the petition, and sighed, as if the situation had already tried to bite him. Connor Mitchell, he said. Sela's face didn't change. Yes. Jameer signed hard enough to make the pen squeak. I hate that guy. His gaze flicked to Sela's hands, then deliberately moved away, an act of respect so small it mattered. before we left, he shoved a paper bag toward the table. "Breakfast tomorrow," he said like it was an instruction for survival. "You two look like you're trying to win on fumes." At the library's after-hours slot, the petition disappeared into the drop box with a soft, metallic swallow. My phone camera clicked with the building clock in frame. The evidence log got one more line. "You don't trust anything," Sela said. "I trust proof," I answered, closing the notebook. "It lasts." Her keys jingled once as she pocketed them. "I have to go back to the shop. Jobs are scheduled." My folder lifted. "I'll come." "You don't know cars." "I won't pretend," I said. "But I know corners, and I know how rules get used like ropes." She studied me for a beat, then turned toward the rain. "Fine. Just don't touch anything expensive." The shop smelled like rubber and oil and hot metal cooling down. The air compressor thumped in the back, steady, mechanical, alive. Salah stepped inside, and the space seemed to align behind her. Two employees looked up. Selah's voice carried without rising. "We're open. We finished what we promised." Work resumed. Ratchet clicks. The compressor exhaled. My portable scanner landed on the counter with a soft plastic tap. Selah's eyebrow lifted. "You carry that around." "My track record encourages preparation," I said. She set a binder labeled City Compliance near my elbow. "Scan." The scanner whirred. PDFs stacked in a neat row. Each file got a label. Each label turned chaos into something you could point at without raising your voice. Then the front door chimed. Connor Mitchell walked in, clean as a brochure clipboard in hand, smile bright enough to be suspicious. His eyes flicked to Selah's coveralls with a faint wince. "Ms. Reyes," he said, "we need to talk." "Email me," Selah replied, hand steady on the counter. Connor's gaze shifted to me. "And you are?" My folder opened. Paper lead. "Reed Cooper, resident, also one of the vehicles you had towed." "This is a safety issue," Connor said. "It's controls," Selah answered, calm. Connor recited complaints, noise disposal, parking like a hymn. Customers in the waiting area fell silent. One employee paused mid-wipe. My phone went face down. The printed file properties sheet lay neatly within Connor's sight. "The authorization attachment is mismatched," I said. "Metadata lists you as editor." Connor's smile flattened. "That's an accusation." "It's public record," I said. Selah leaned in, palms on wood. "You forged an attachment." "Careful," Connor said, eyes hardening. "No," Selah replied. "You be careful." The bylaw clause joined the papers. "Emergency petition filed," I said. "Expedited hearing stayed pending review." Connor read, then set it down like it tasted bad. "You're new here." "New doesn't mean blind," I replied. "We'll see how public you want this," he said, and left. The door chimed again. The compressor resumed its steady thump. Selah reached back for the rag and squeezed it once in her fist, then set it down on the counter like a boundary marker. "Paper war," she said. "Paper war," I answered. The next morning, gray sky pressed down like damp cloth. At the library corner, Jameer dropped the promised paper bag on our table. "Breakfast," he said. "Because you two look like you're trying to win a fight on fumes." Selah's mouth opened, then closed. She took the sandwich anyway. Wrapper crackled loudly in the quiet. After the first bite, her shoulders dropped an inch, like her body had been waiting for permission to stop bracing. On the table, the evidence packet spread out in tidy rows: tow logs, screenshots, bylaws, receipts, a timeline, index tabs. Printer toner left a sharp smell on the paper. Salah added her own documents without ceremony: disposal, logs, invoices, renewal receipts, placing them like parts on a bench. At the committee office, the hallway smelled of floor cleaner and stale carpet. A clerk placed a recorder on the table. Its red light blinked steadily. Connor delivered his speech about public safety and outsiders. My pen marked timestamps. Salah stood, voice even. "The permit attachment is mismatched. The metadata lists you as editor. The hold is based on expedited violations outside the notice window." "Metadata can be manipulated," Connor said. The evidence log moved forward with a rasp of paper on laminate. "Public archive retrieval times email timestamps file hash captured at retrieval," I said. Change the file, the hash changes. It didn't. A committee member leaned in. The room quieted, the kind of quiet that follows measurable detail. The clerk read the bylaw aloud, emergency petition filed, expedited hearing stayed. A vote suspended the toehold pending neutral review. Not a full win. A door opening. Connor's eyes followed Selah as we left, and the fluorescent hum in the hallway sounded like a warning that hadn't finished speaking. The next push arrived at my dig site where sun flattened shadows into sharp edges and dust clung to my fingers. An email popped up with a bland subject line, hearing date updated. The date moved up again. Next week. I forwarded it to Selah and wiped dust off my phone screen with the side of my thumb, smearing it instead. At her shop later, only one light burned. The air smelled of oil and old heat. Selah stood behind the counter, phone in hand. Her fingers rested briefly at her temple, then dropped. He called my supplier, she said. Tried to spook them. Pressure campaign, I replied, notebook already open. If I lose releases, I can't run jobs. If I can't run jobs, I can't pay the lease. Her voice stayed steady, but the phone creaked slightly in her grip. I sat at the counter with my hands visible. Which part scares you most? Selah lifted her hands grease and the lines proof she couldn't scrub out completely. The people will see this and decide it proves him right. The rag lay beside the keyboard. I picked it up by a corner and placed it closer to her, careful. Your hands prove you work, I said. She set her phone in front of me unlocked. A voicemail transcript, Connor bragging about cleaning up the street, making examples. Can I send this to Shiloh, I asked. Yes, Selah said immediately. The message went out. Selah watched the sent confirmation, then looked at my calendar app when I opened it. Hearing date in bold. Under it, Selah. You're treating this like it's your life, she said quietly. I pocketed the phone. Because it's touching it. She swallowed once, then grabbed her keys. Go home, she told herself out loud. Eat, sleep. Tomorrow we work, I replied. She hesitated at the door, then turned back and placed the rag on the counter in front of me, not as a gift, but as a silent reminder. Don't forget what's on the line. Her fingers brushed my knuckles for half a second, accidental non-sexual human. The contact was brief, but it changed the room's temperature more than any speech could. When she left, the compressor thumped once in the back like a heartbeat refusing to quit. No text came for the next library meeting. An email arrived instead, unauthorized use of public records. Under the fluorescent lights, the complaint read like a neatly printed threat. My grant info sat in it like a lever. Jameer stared at his own phone across from me. They filed on me too. At Selah's shop, bay doors were half down again. One light on. The air smelled of rubber and stale oil. Selah stood behind the counter with arms folded, eyes sharp. He pulled your grant, she said. I didn't think he could, I answered. She set a folder on the counter, a year of targeted complaints, inspection requests, emails about tone and appearance dates lining up like footprints. I didn't show you before, she said, gaze dropping to her hands for a half-beat. Didn't want to look messy. The folder opened. Toner and old frustration rose off the pages. This isn't messy, I said. It's a pattern. Her phone followed screen up. A text from an unknown number. Close the shop and the toehold disappears. Screenshot captured. Timestamp logged. Consent noted. Then the laptop opened, and the work became a rhythm response letter, exhibits numbered, index printed. The printer whirred and spat pages out with tired authority. Selah held the last sheet with both hands. Paper trembled slightly, then steadied as she read the header. This hearing, she said low, we don't just defend. The bylaw clause went onto the stack with the rest not dramatized, just positioned like the right tool within reach. We force the vote, I said. Her eyes lifted. Do it. The community hall smelled like stale coffee and damp coats. Folding chairs squeaked under shifting weight. The projector flickered, then stabilized. In the back, a news intern live-streamed on a phone tripod. No narration, no filter, just the room. Connor sat at the front, clean hands, polished smile. Selah sat beside me in work clothes, hair tied back, spine straight. Shiloh sat to the side with a notebook, quiet and present. Connor spoke about public safety and outsiders. The recorder captured every syllable. My pen marked timestamps. When my turn came, the evidence packet landed on laminate with a crisp tap. Documentation, I said, not opinions. One click on the remote. The PDF properties panel filled the screen, author tag, edit, time, file, hash. Boring detail, unavoidable truth. Metadata can be manipulated, Connor said. Retrieval logs appeared next, then email timestamps, then the captured hash. Change the file, the hash changes, I said. It didn't. Sela rose and handed the chair her phone. The text message glowed on screen, close the shop, and the tow hold disappears. The chair's face tightened. Where did this come from? Unknown number, Sela answered, but it arrived the same day he expedited violations. Connor's smile slipped. His eyes cut once toward the live stream phone. People in the audience shifted. The room's attention became heavy in the way a spotlight becomes heavy. The bylaw clause appeared on the projector next. Bylaw 6.2 requires a vote to suspend the chair's authorization privileges pending investigation when procedural abuse is documented, I said. A committee member motioned. Another seconded. Hands rose. Majority. Connor stood abruptly. His chair scraped loud enough to echo. He looked at Sela like he wanted to say something sharp, and then saw the camera, the witnesses, the recorder, and chose silence instead. He left. The hall held still for a beat, then exhaled in small movements, someone uncrossing arms, someone sitting back. The chair turned to Sela. Tow holds will be reviewed by a neutral administrator. Release upon verification. Sela sat, her hands opened on her lap, fingers finally unclenching. After the session, rain stopped like someone closed a faucet. Streetlights reflected off wet pavement in soft pools. At the tow yard, Shiloh handed release codes through the slot. Sela signed with calm efficiency, then checked the vehicle condition report like a professional. Her truck sat dusty but intact behind the fence. Her hand ran along the hood, practical relief, not sentiment. My equipment case came back too. Locks clicked, seals held. At the shop, Jameer arrived with a cheap cake in a plastic container and set it on the counter with a grin he pretended was casual. Victory cake, he said. If I don't celebrate your bad luck, we'll think it won. Sela stared, then laughed, short, surprised, real. The sound bounced off concrete and made one employee smile. Plates appeared. A plastic knife sawed through frosting. Sela took the first slice and instead of handing it to me, placed it on the counter in front of my folder paperwork, first sugar, second. Then her gaze lifted to mine, and for a second, the shop's noise seemed to step back. Compressor thump, faint radio tools in the bay. Eat, she said, simple. I did. Frosting stuck to my thumb. Salah reached for the rag and wiped the counter once, slow and deliberate, as if cleaning could be a quiet celebration too. When I looked up, her eyes were already on me, not warm in a dramatic way, just steady. The kind of look that says you stayed. The follow-up meeting took place in a glass-walled room at the city library corner. Paper dust and cold takeout lingered in the air. And outside the glass, normal life continued. Printers, whispers, footsteps. Sela entered with a folder and a small keyring. Clean work clothes, hair tied back. The shop rag lived in her pocket, stain and all. The chair announced Connor's authorization privileges revoked pending investigation. Updated parking authorization and tow release protocol lay on the table. Sela read every line. Finger-tracked clauses. Pen clicked softly when she signed. My witness signature followed. Ink dried quickly. Then Sela opened her folder again and set one key on the table in front of me. Office door, she said. Admin side. For paperwork, parts, orders, scheduling, not the bays. The key was cold in my palm. It smelled faintly of oil and pocket lint, mundane and real. Sela faced the committee chair and spoke plainly, loud enough for the glass to carry. Reed is my partner. The chair nodded, almost relieved by the simplicity. Sela didn't stop there. She stepped closer, not into my space, but into my life, and looped the keyring through my fingers instead of leaving it on the table. Her hand closed around mine for a brief second, firm like a handshake, personal like a promise. No lingering. No performance. Near the Civic Archives terminal where we started, Salah pulled the rag out and turned it over once. "I keep thinking I should throw it away," she said. I held the keyring up. "Keep it," I said. "It proves you didn't quit when it was ugly." She threaded the rag through the keyring loop, her key in mine, then let the ring rest fully in my palm. The cloth brushed my skin rough and familiar. "Partner," she added, quieter now, eyes steady on mine, means I don't do this alone anymore. Not the shop, not the paperwork, not the hard days. My throat tightened once. Instead of filling the moment with words, my thumb curled over the keyring and the rag, securing them the way you secure an artifact you don't want to lose. One sentence settled behind my ribs, anchored to stained cloth and cold metal. Winning the wrong way is actually losing. True victory is sleeping with a clear conscience. Integrity isn't loud, it's consistent. When pressure shows up, proof and patience protect what matters. The safest partner doesn't create drama. They build safety with boundaries, receipts, and steady presence. Please like and subscribe so we can share more stories like this.